All right, so we're live in Facebook and we're recording. So I would say on behalf of Game Changers Nation and Real Estate B School, or if you are a guest to our Tuesday production mastermind call, welcome. And I think Stacy said it really well, and I love Justin's comment there that there's so much like just blood and guts headlines around fear, uncertainty, and doubt now. And the thing I like about, and I watched both of these, I'm going to try to get through 2 KCMs today. So at the end of every month, Keeping Current Matters, which is fairly, they're not going to give you the bleeding headlines, right? They're just going to evaluate the data and give you tools that you will need to be able to navigate a market like this on your own. Let me see here. Let me just change my view. All right, now I got gallery view. And so that's at the end of the month. And we get a copy of it like 9th or 10th of the month. And then every Monday morning, KCM is doing an update. So they're looking at the most recent numbers. So I'm going to try to get through the core monthly market update from KCM. And then I'm going to open it up for comments and like what's working and how are you guys staying in the game. For those of you that are still selling a bunch of real estate, for those of you that have been through a market shift, especially, I want you guys to chime in and then we'll end this call. I think it's about 12 minutes, the update. So I'm going to play this first, Keeping Current Matters. And again, to Justin's point around the biggest casualty, I think, of uncertain times, it's going to be agents that don't think they can make it through this. So regardless of what happens in the market, if you're getting sucked into the headlines, you're probably not going to show up the way that you need to show up in your real estate business. And that's just straight up truth. I went just until recently and it didn't. I hate that I even got sucked into the vortex of news. I have physically removed the television from my bedroom at this point. But I went a full 10 years without watching any news at all. And that was all my big growth years in my real estate team. So if you have a source that you're getting sucked into outside of just the facts about what's going on, just be really careful of that. So let me share my screen and we will get after it here. Keep the chat going. So the thing that's challenging a bit about not being physically together, it seems like we're a community, but we're not physically together, right? So get in the chat, comment, if you can add color to one of the comments or stats, or if you're seeing something in your market that matches the national statistics, which KCM, they view national data, or something that you use. They're going to make a comment about like interest rates and maybe how you got a seller to buy down some points. Keep a running sort of chat so we can sort of engage and have something to talk about when this first part's over. And then we'll take a break. I want to hear from some of you that know without a shadow of a doubt you're going to kick the shit out of this shift. I want to hear from you, and then we'll do the second part of this, okay? All right, so let's get the party started here. Oh, no. I'm just having one of those days. All right, so I'm going to need Stacy, if you can unmute.
Okay.
Oh, my Lord. God is testing me. Who put the thing in there about God? God is just testing me today. All right, let's see if that's going to make a difference. Oh, no. It's making me quit Zoom to share my screen.
Oh, I'll just pull it up. How about that?
Do you have actually let me see. All right, let me try now. Is it working now?
Yes.
All right. All right, so let me get the monthly market report update. And if you guys don't have a KCM subscription, I don't have like an affiliate deal with them or anything. It's about the coolest thing you can sign up for that only costs, like everything costs more than, a lot of money in real estate. Everybody wants to get a monthly recurring payment out of you. This is, I think, like $29. and you get a blog and a whole bunch of cool stuff. So for those of you in Game Changers Nation or Real Estate B School, I will be posting all of these slides as either, I think, a PDF or even JPEGs, and you guys can use some of these, pull them up on your phone, save them to your phone, you can use them with clients. All right, so I'm going to run this I listened to it at 1.25 this morning. You guys tell me if it's too fast. Go in the chat.
Welcome to your monthly market report for November of 2022. My name is Kate Rezabek, and today David Childers and I are going to walk you through several of the most important topics we can be talking about in the housing market right now. We're going to give you the latest update on mortgage rates and prices, something we're following very closely in today's housing market. We're also going to bring you the latest we have on foreclosures. It's a big question that people have right now around foreclosures and what that looks like in this country. So we're going to bring you the latest on that today. And we're going to wrap by answering or helping you answer the question, should I buy a home right now? You know, a lot of clients and buyers are asking, is this a good time to buy a home? And while everyone moves through that process at a different pace for different reasons, we want to help you answer that question. So I'm going to kick off today with a quote from Donald Miller, who is the author of Building a Story Brand, a book that we read and certainly learned quite a bit from over the years. And it says, people do not follow the best leaders. They follow the ones they can understand the easiest. You know, this is exactly the essence of what we're talking about. It's so important to bring clarity, bring facts, bring vetted research, and help your clients understand in the most simple and effective way what is happening in the housing market so they can make the best decisions. And that's where your relevant market opinion based upon fact comes into play. So hopefully we're going to be able to help you formulate that today, bring you the data, bring you the insights, so you can have that relevant market opinion based upon facts and be the expert that your clients truly need in this market. So I'm going to start today with an update on mortgage rates. And the big question, will mortgage rates keep rising? So let's start with a graph that you've certainly seen us share before. And it says mortgage rates are rising this year. This is the Freddie Mac 30-year fixed rate from January of 2022, so very beginning of the year, through where we are today. And of course, this is a look back. So this was released at the time of this recording, right in the beginning of November. And what we can see is mortgage rates have been climbing drastically this year. This is what we've all been feeling. Look at that steep incline. And, you know, they even ticked up over 7% over the past couple of weeks. And, you know, that's causing the cool down in the market. That is causing people to pause their plans, say, hey, I'm not really sure that I want to buy right now. Some people are being priced out of the market. We're seeing all of this happen. Mortgage rates have actually, if you look at this graph, they have more than doubled in this year. That has never happened before in a calendar year. So really important that we keep our eyes on mortgage rates. And you know, the pain that people are feeling is because they're rising so fast. It's not necessarily just about that 7% number that we're starting to see them tick around. It's about the rapid rise. And I think this quote really from Freddie Mac really says it well. It says, U.S. 30-year fixed mortgage rates have increased 3.83 percentage points since the end of last year. That's the biggest year-to-date increase in over 50 years. So that's certainly making people press pause. It's making them question their plans. And as the market expert, it's important to help clients understand, why is this happening and what do we experience? What do we expect going forward? And, you know, I think at the end of the day, we've been saying this for a while now, is this is all about inflation. So take a look at this quote from George Ratu from Realtor.com. It says, with inflation still running at a 40-year high and the Fed expecting a few more rate increases to combat it, mortgage rates will experience upward pressure through the end of 2022. So why is that? Because the Federal Reserve is making moves to raise the federal funds rate. They're trying to lower inflation. They're trying to slow down the economy. And in doing so, they don't call mortgage rates, but mortgage rates tend to respond. And that's exactly what's happening. It's what we've been saying, you know, for the bulk of the year now, is that while inflation is high, mortgage rates are going to remain high. So we're seeing that expected upward pressure through the end of the year. Now, the good news is, and I think this says it well, this is Mark Fleming from First American, says, while mortgage rates are expected to continue to drift higher over the coming months, much of the rapid increase in rates is likely behind us. So we're not talking about mortgage rates doubling again. You know, mortgage rates are feeling that pressure. The Fed is making active moves to lower inflation. Mortgage rates respond. We're still seeing high mortgage rates, but we're not expected to see this exponential increase as we continue to go forward. So, you know, as we start to see the Fed making moves to lower inflation, to really kind of get this under control and to, you know, see what's happening in the economy around us, the question starts to come into play, what about a recession? You know, that's the next thing on the radar, is what happens? Is there a recession around the corner? And this data from the Wall Street Journal is really helpful. And it is a survey where the Wall Street Journal asked economists, what are the chances of a recession happening in the next 12 months? And we've been following this all year, and you can see over on the left side of your screen, in January of 2022, about 18% of economists said, you know what, I think we're going to see a recession over the next 12 months. Well, as you know, the inflation has stayed high. We've seen economic pressures in the world around us. We've seen the housing market change. You know, that percentage of economists who are expecting a recession over the next 12 months has continued to increase. And the latest data released in October shows that 63% of economists feel that there's going to be a recession sometime over the next 12 months. And, you know, this is reflective of where we've seen the economy go over the past year. And it starts to spark the question, what does that mean for the housing market? And so as we look at the housing market, there's a lot we can learn from history. And you've seen us share this graph before, but let's keep in mind that a recession does not mean falling prices. Okay, so in 4 out of the last 6 recessions in this country, home prices actually increased. Now, we all remember the housing crash in 2008. I think that's fresh in our minds, and people are fearful of that. But what we have to remember is we have a very different landscape right now when it comes to inventory, when it comes to lending standards, equity, all of the factors that are driving the housing market in a different direction. Now, what this graph does not mean is that we won't have falling prices, but it does mean that it doesn't happen every time. So when we think about what happens in the housing market, if a recession is in play, we have to put this context together. And I think one thing we can also learn about what history tells us is that a recession more likely means falling mortgage rates, because in those same 6 recessions, mortgage
The sound muted, Lars.
to help your clients understand, share these visuals, help them understand, what does history tell us? You know, we're going to have to see how this plays out. We're going to have to see what happens with inflation, what happens with mortgage rates. We're going to talk about prices in just a moment as well. But it does.
Is the sound back?
Yes, it is.
Mean that prices will fall. And of course, you can see here that traditionally mortgage rates have come down. So they've risen very dramatically. And what history shows us is that at some point they turn. So that's what we're keeping our eye on. And we're continuing to help you communicate to your clients, because again, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty when you start to say recession in the housing market. Now, I want to talk next about what experts are saying about home prices, because I think this is another big question on everyone's mind, and certainly something that we want to help you answer. We're continuing to bring updates on home prices, you know, very regularly, because this is a dynamic that is changing. We've seen mortgage rates rising, and that is easing kind of the fury and the frenzy that we've seen in the housing market. But what does that mean for prices? So let's take a look at this quote from Redfin. It says, for those bearish folks eagerly awaiting the home price crash, you'll have to keep waiting. As much as demand is pulling back, supply is as well, and that's reducing downward pressure on prices in the short run. So what does this mean? This means houses are staying on the market longer. We're not seeing an influx of new listing. It is still a seller's market. And what we know is that prices are driven by supply and demand. And this is continuing to put upward pressure on home prices. However, it's also giving more opportunities for buyers. So we're seeing that shift in the market. Now, I want to bring you the latest update we have on the home price forecast for next year, because this part is changing as we continue to have this conversation. So we like to look across the board at several different experts and kind of average them all out so you can see the full picture here. What you can see here is that some experts are projecting a little bit of appreciation next year. That's what you see in those blue bars, anywhere from 0.7% to 2.6% appreciation. We have other experts that are projecting slight depreciation. So it really is kind of, it's scanning, it's across the board, a little bit up, a little bit down, depending on how experts are looking at it. And this is where layering in that local data becomes more important than ever, because what we're feeling right now is some of those overheated markets where prices went up so rapidly during the pandemic are starting to see more of a shift in prices than some of the other markets that may be holding steady. When we average these out across the year, roughly neutral, flat home price appreciation for 2023. But it's certainly something we're going to continue to keep our eyes on as we go forward. You know, this is where layering in that local, what's happening with supply, what's happening with demand in your market helps define where prices are headed in your local area. Now, I want to share another perspective of this, because big banks are projecting more depreciation in 2023. So Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Moody's, Morgan Stanley, you can see that they're shifting more towards, you know what, we may see some slight depreciation next year. And, you know, it's a little bit different because some of the big banks, they follow more of those publicly traded builders versus some of the organizations that follow more existing homes. And so big banks are calling for more depreciation based on that new build type of environment versus existing home organizations saying more appreciation. But what's most important and where they all really tend to agree, and this is data from Wells Fargo that I think really positions this well, is that 2023 maybe a little bit of depreciation, maybe a little bit rocky next year. But as we come into 2024 and beyond, we're turning to more normal levels of home price appreciation. And as we continue to look forward, as we look at things like the home price expectation survey saying more normal appreciation in the years ahead, all of that dependent on supply and demand. And, you know, while inventory is still historically low, we will continue to see that in the years ahead. But 2023, maybe a little bit of depreciation, maybe a little bit more neutral. That's really kind of the bottom line that we're seeing here. And a lot of that has to do with perspective and what you communicate and how your clients look at it. And I think this quote from Freddie Mac really says that well. It says, well, there may be a little statistical difference between a small positive number and a small negative number. So talking about some appreciation, some depreciation. There are often huge differences in how they impact behavior. So how your clients look at this and what they anticipate will happen in your local markets may really drive behavior. So you being that expert, being able to share the data, share the insights on what's truly happening both nationwide and in your local area, more important than ever, because that's really going to be the clarity that people need in this message. And what we also know, especially as we look back in time, we had, you know, the great financial crisis. There were 5 years of continued depreciation. No one is calling for that extended long period of depreciation right now. Little rocky next year, and then returning potentially to more normal levels of appreciation. So we're not talking about this long financial crisis ahead of us. We're talking about some up, some down next year, and then back to more normal levels as we look nationally at that perspective across the board, moving into a much more stable environment. So with that in mind, as always, layer in what's happening in your market with inventory, with demand, with all of those things that can impact what's happening in your neighborhoods, and then really kind of help your clients understand the bigger picture of what's happening in the world around us, in the markets around us. And I think as we start to talk about prices, about mortgage rates, about all of these things that are in play, the next big question that comes up is what about foreclosures? And David's going to walk you through our update here.
All right, thanks, Kate. Well, we've talked about interest rates, we talked about prices, what Kate just went through. I want to sort of shift the conversation to a couple of things that I think are important right now as we have that conversation. One is what's happening with foreclosures, and I'm going to break that down for just the next few minutes. And then sort of in this with the question that I think is on a lot of people's minds right now, and that is, should I buy a home? One of the questions being asked of many of us, and certainly anybody that's in our business, that critical question and being able to answer it. I think the first two topics of interest rates and prices are critical in answering that question. But we're going to sort of discuss that as we wrap up. But what about foreclosures? Let's kind of start here, and I'll maybe position the statements with this graphic here. This is foreclosure activity by year from Adam data, and it goes all the way back to 2005. And something very interesting right here. If you look at this graphic, ever since 2010, foreclosures have decreased in this country. And, there's a reason for that. Coming out of the financial crisis of 2008, lending standards became, a lot stricter. We've talked extensively about that on the monthly market report. And, as you have a better qualified borrower, stricter standards, you have less defaults. The bars in red here are when distressed properties or foreclosures in this country were over 1 million units in the year. And every year we've seen less and less foreclosures. And even if you take 2020 and 2021 off the map because they're anomaly years, we've seen that happen. So the question really becomes, are we about to see a bunch of foreclosures coming to the market? And what's the update on that? And I will tell you, I'm not going to cover it today, one of the leading indicators of that is delinquencies, and delinquencies are down right now. But if we look at foreclosures, Adam data says this: only about 214,800 homeowners were facing possible foreclosure in the second quarter of 2022, or just 0.4% of the 58.2 million outstanding mortgages in the U.S. And this is 0.4% of 1%. And if you think about that, this is a number that if you were to sit down with a servicer or somebody in the mortgage business that's, in the side that looks at foreclosures in a portfolio of mortgages, they would generally tell you they're okay with about 1% default rate in a portfolio. Well, where are we at? We're less than half of what they're even, okay with in a scenario, a normalized scenario. Foreclosure is very, very low. And oh, by the way, if you continue reading this, of those facing foreclosures, about 195,400 or 91% had at least some equity built up in their homes. Now, people do get foreclosed on that have equity in their homes, but the bottom line is people have options. They can sell their home, put some money in their pocket, and sort of move to the other side of the financial crisis they and their family have faced. But if we continue this, even updated here in the third quarter, Rick Sharga said this: anyone waiting for a huge foreclosure wave will probably be disappointed by this report from Adam Data. Foreclosure activity was flat from Q1 to Q2, and foreclosure starts dropped slightly from August to September. So this is a quote from Rick. We follow Rick and certainly trust Adam Data and everything they're doing. And yet the report that then came out from Adam Data had this as the headline: U.S. foreclosure activity continues to increase quarterly, nearing pre-pandemic levels. So more than the pandemic, factually correct, but maybe misleading for somebody that reads this and doesn't dig deeper like you are here on the monthly market report. This market is a critical market to go beyond the headline into really what are they saying, because oftentimes they're very, very different than maybe what we're led to believe. But the bottom line is, there's not this pent-up demand of foreclosures coming. We've been talking about this, and if you're watching the monthly market report or followed this report, then that. I think we need to still get this message out there. And people wonder, well, are we about to see a wave of just inventory hit the market? Well, this is a look at the end of October as we're recording this, and where's housing supply at? If we look at the same week in 2021. We're up almost 40%, 39.5%, up over 2020, slightly 6.3%, but down over 2019, just over 37%. So, 2019, we often say 2017, 2018, 2019, the normal years in the market before we went into COVID and, everything that we know that brought is the anomaly of real estate in this country. So not only are we not seeing this wave of foreclosures come, we're not seeing a wave of inventory hit the market. Certainly more than last year, certainly more than the year before. But if you look at prior to COVID, we are still down across the country in available inventory. I think this leads into this question that I sort of teased out before. And the question is, should I buy a home right now? And I think on top of many people's minds is that question, whether you're in the business and do you know how to answer that, or you're thinking about buying a home and you're going, hey, I'm reading the headlines or I'm seeing what's out there. I know interest rates have shot up and I'm not sure I should buy a home right now. Kate started off talking about the dramatic rise in interest rates we've seen this year in the real estate business, dramatic rise in mortgage rates. There's two things everyone should consider when they're thinking about buying a home. First question is, what do I believe about mortgage rates? Kate just gave us that. What do I believe about home prices? Kate just gave us that. And then I'm going to form my relevant market opinion based upon that to help somebody answer an extremely personal question. If they want to wait and it's the best thing for them, we want to help them do that. But we want to educate them on what's happening, certainly nationally, but also with our local market expertise and information. But here's the bottom line. What's the alternative? The alternative is renting. And this slide right here shows the median asking rent going all the way back to 1988. You've seen this before on the monthly market report, but rents across the country have skyrocketed. I think right now our job in this business is to understand and know what a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment where we live, what it rents for. If you don't know that right now, I'd get on the phone and I would find that out. What's a house renting for? You may know that or have seen that out in what's out in the market, but understanding where rents are at, maybe you think but I would call right now because they're going up. No doubt, rental inventory is impacted by supply and demand, just like housing is, and we're seeing that go back to the roof. But the bottom line is if you're in the rental trap and you're sort of paying through the nose for your rent, then you can't afford to save for a down payment. You can't afford to get into a home, which then allows you to build wealth over time. We know that home ownership wins. We maybe get focused on it, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be focused on it, of a 7% interest rate, or we get focused on prices. And there's certainly people that have been priced out of this market. But the bottom line is buying a home over time wins for many, many people that do it, gives them options down the road through the equity. And that's not even counting all the non-financial benefits that people buy a home. I think Odetta Cushy said this best. And she said this: if you can find a house that meets your financial expectations for a monthly payment and it's a good time for you to buy it, then do that. And if you wait for prices to fall, but they never do, you may discover the hard way that the house you found a year ago that you really loved, that you could afford, but you passed up on, is more expensive next year. And I think that's the bottom line. Certainly local market dynamics are at play and you need to be the expert there. But there are some people on the sidelines going, I'm going to wait till prices fall. And I don't think they're going to see that. Kate went through the expectations of what experts are saying about the 2023 market and really giving that good advice, saying what's most important to you. Let's look at interest rates. Let's look at prices. Let's understand rents. That's our job today, because if we don't do that job, here's what's at stake. And I think Jason Lewis from Parcel said this and said it very, very well. In the absence of trustworthy, up-to-date information, real estate decisions are increasingly being driven by fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And these decisions can be hugely consequential for consumers and for businesses. If we don't get the truth out there, a headline is read or somebody is told something and it causes them to be fearful, uncertain, and doubt whether they should or they shouldn't buy a home. Our job is to be the educator. Our job is to use tools and resources to educate people on what is actually happening in the housing market, not to try to convince them to do something they don't want to do, but to educate them so they can make the best decision for themselves, for their family, for those that they care about. And I think is now more than ever, this is a critical piece of what we have to do. You know, in a lot of markets, you don't have to do this because everybody's like, I kind of understand what's going on. But there's so many people that deal with so much uncertainty, not only in the economy, but in what we can control, which is the housing market, being educated, delivering our message, and helping people make powerful and confident decisions. You know, just by listening to the monthly market report, you are doing that. I want to tell you about another resource.
All right, so let's hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let's spend a split second just talking about what we just consumed. Maybe in the chat type your takeaways. But then are there a few brave souls that have either, you know, been through a shift, most notably the Great Recession years and crushed it, or anyone that has a high degree of confidence that they're going to absolutely slay these next couple years, and also maybe even some mindset stuff that you guys are doing to keep after it. You can unmute yourself and let's get a few people to share some good stuff here. I'll just call on you guys. I'm looking at one person in particular, and if she can feel me looking at her, she's going to unmute herself and speak. I gave it away. It's like half of you. So
Lars, I have something. This is Catherine. This is India. Anyway, you know, it sounds very cliche, but you know, like the British say, keep calm and carry on. And if you really think about that, I think it makes a big difference. And we need to stop getting involved with all the new stuff. We know what our job is. We need to keep ourselves really educated on the market and just keep going, because this too shall pass. I've gone through there was a 2003, 2008. I've been through them all. And it's the positive mindset that's going to take you through this and leave you much more successful.
that's so good. Keep calm and carry on. I love that. Thanks, Catherine. Justin Miller, what do you got? And then if you're clever, you're next. And I'm just calling on you.
You know, I went through the 08 and it was a really tough time. And I think what got us through that, and it should be something that we're doing now, what we're doing as a team, we're looking to show up for our clients and help them through some challenging stuff and finding their problems and solving those problems for them. So when it crashed last time, just educating people, helping them through those short sales, helping them through different, you know, options, introducing them to different people. And I think that's what we're doing now at the same time. And then also, you know, people still have to move. So really targeting on the people that need to move, not the people that were wanting to move or just like, oh, I've got a bunch of extra money, I want a bigger yard or this or that. But the people that actually need to downsize, can't do the stairs, their parents passed away, like leaning into that and find out who needs to move, who needs your help, and really showing up for them in the best version of yourself. And I think the rental market is huge, a big opportunity, because people that are, you know, scared, if you can, a good lead source too. I mean, we're pulling a ton of leads out of rentals that are just people that we're creating awesome relationships with, that we're able to set up the, you know, we specialize in timelines. So they might not be ready right now, but if we can get that relationship, cultivate it and keep in touch with them, position them in the right mindset to be able to purchase in a year from now, it's a really a strong thing to do. Just looking for that opportunity to show up and help people, I think, is what we're at.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in the video, when they mentioned, know the rents in your market, right? So even though interest rates have gone up, to know that, like, hey, listen, you can either buy a house today and this is what it looks like, marry the house, date the rate, or whatever the expression is. I'm sure I messed that up. But Yeah, to know that rents have skyrocketed, right? So people have to live somewhere. So there's no easy way to navigate housing. Anyone else have any comments? So Lori's doing a few challenges. November, agents sending using their time block every morning to our VA for Monday through Friday with exactly who they are calling and when, just to keep momentum with business development moving forward. Yeah, I still don't, having been in this business and, having coached for many years, I still don't know of a way to generate business that does not involve a very rigorous calendar with a commitment to doing the basic core activities of a salesperson. If there was a way, you're going to do all the other stuff anyway, but if there was a way to do it without just a commitment to being honest with yourself about where you spend your time, I would tell you how to do it. Even if you figure out how to generate leads, you still got to call them. Beth, and then Tammy.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out the little raise your hand thing. But what I've noticed too is I'm going back to basics, just like the first person said, as far as Catherine said. What I do notice now is we did a phone call campaign just so I went around and picked up food for the food shelf. What's happening with inflation is our food shelf lines are just massive. And so kind of educating them to what's going on in our community has been very helpful. And it also, they kind of remember you. I just leave a thank you note and I pick everything up off the front stoop, or they come out and want to talk to me about business. So my VA is doing the calling just to get me to get in front of them to pick up food. And that's been a nice soft touch. It's the right time of the year to do it.
Yeah, that's really good. Community outreach. Tammy, what do you got?
Yeah, so our team, we've worked through, 2003, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And one thing I can say for us that I remind myself and our team of, and then for everyone else, is people still bought homes always. People still had to sell. And honestly, it was a little easier to sell as an agent in those markets because no one was brave enough for the most part to try it on their own. And so this is a really good season, I think, for all of us just to be the knowledge brokers, which, is what KCM is all about. But, our team specifically being challenged on any media, which, let's call it video, social media, all those platforms, LinkedIn. That is free advertising where you can get as many touch points as you want all the time. So more than paying for a billboard or doing a mass mailer, not saying not to do those things, but people use people they know, like, and trust. And so in uncertain times, which is what KCM is always all about, if you can put a different spin on it, and not necessarily, I'm not saying the KCM information, that's great, but there are still people who are going to be buying their first home this year, and they don't even really understand a 7% is bad, except for someone said it in a scary voice on a headline. So when you say, this is an awesome home, this is what it looks like in your territory. Did you know that your payments could be X? And then the rental rate. Well, yeah. You just build their faith in why they need to buy a home, and telling them it's a really great time because sellers are offering more incentives now and doing other things there. So, like everyone said, the basics, but I think really pressing into getting your voice out there is super important, because beyond even when you make calls, when your sphere and everyone around you knows that they feel like they can trust you, you're going to walk them through it and you're going to give them information in a way that someone else hasn't. That really helps you connect at a high level. And we all know this, lots of agents said it was easy for them to get their license. They drifted away from the business, and they're drifting away this year before the annual dues come ready. And so one of the things we talk about on our team is no orphan buyers. So if there was someone who, was in the business, I look back in 2018, 2019, 2020, I'm looking at all of my sales where we were the listing agent and we're pulling all those buyers and we're reaching out to them and we're doing CMAs for them. We're calling on them. We're inviting them to our events, and we're starting to nurture those because we know that most buyers are orphaned, but especially now with so many agents having gotten in and gotten out of real estate, it's a great time to pick them up in case they're ready to make a decision or connect us. Most of our people don't necessarily buy or sell with us right then, but we give them information, so then they refer other people to us.
That's really good to out agent the buyer agent on the opposite side of your listings. That's that orphan buyers program is really awesome. Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate that. And so there's a few questions in here about, and I'll broaden up a little bit, knowing your numbers and, how many conversations, and it could be, and it is different, but by lead source, but how many conversations do you have to set a consultation? How many consultations do you need to have to sign a client, you know, a buyer or seller? And, you know, as the market shifts, it may be a little bit, you know, harder to get a buyer under contract or a seller's home sold. So if you're not even in the game of tracking any metric in your business, meaningful conversations on a daily basis is the number one leadingest indicator, you know, of success. So if, you know, when we coach bigger teams and they're not productive and there's not this culture of productivity, it always comes down to the fact that they're just not doing the sort of contact sport of sales. And it could be anything. It could be if you have a different way to have meaningful conversations with a decision-making adult about real estate. It could be calling your database. It could be calling expireds. It could be, you know, whatever the things are, but you've got to be in the game. There was a mention of 10 contacts today, and there's a mention of 25 to 30. We erred toward the higher side to leave no doubt that we're going to crush. You know, if you don't have a bunch of appointments, a bunch of active buyers and sellers, it's okay to generate new business for many hours a day. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to hurt you. It's actually not that hard, right? Most of you are in like a heated or an air-conditioned space in a comfortable chair with technology that's doing some of the heavy lifting for you. But I do think we're all going to have to do things in our business that maybe we didn't have to do in the last couple of years because the deals were flowing. And you're only going to find out after the fact that you didn't do enough, right? So my encouragement is to not leave any of that to chance. Just decide now you're going to be one of the agents that's super productive every day. Doesn't mean you can't build marketing systems, doesn't mean you can't do all the things, but as far as the leading metric is, you know, interactions with would-be buyers and sellers. Andrea.
Hey, Lars. I thought that Raul had a really smart comment. He said, I'm interviewing lenders to know and see if they're coming up with new programs to overcome the high interest rates. And I think that's super smart. But, you know, when we're dealing with a downturn or things get crazy in the economy, think about who your buyers and sellers, who your homeowners are going to talk to during this time about their financial situation. So if you contacted 10, you know, past clients a day, what if once a day you reached out to the most trusted advisors in those people's life? So a lot of people, especially before the end of the year, are doing a touch base with their CPA or with a financial advisor and saying, what should I do? This is happening. This is crazy. What should I do? And if you can come in with, and if you can reach out to those individuals who are advisors to, and this is leverage, right? It's a high number. They talk to a high number of people who have wealth. And so if you can become someone who is another trusted source of information, to be able to say, hey, you know, I'm helping people navigate this market and doing it in a calm way with real information. When they are talking to their clients about what should I do? I need to downsize, or I have to make this change, or we have health issues. We got to move. The laundry's on the second floor. We got to, you know, there's people that have to move during this time regardless, but there's also people that are just looking for good, sound financial advice. And they're going, and think about who they are going to that could be a referral source for you. So they represent many, many potential buyers and sellers. And if you can, you know, for every 10 potential clients you reach out to at least one who represents many, that you could have as a referral source and build a good relationship of like a calming source of good information during this crazy time. I always like to think of leverage and how do we leverage through connections with advisors who people are reaching out to like crazy right now.
Yeah, that's so good. The whole one-to-many, super smart. Anyone else have any comments? And it also makes me think one thing that we added to our scripts, and I think I got it from like 100 Days to Greatness, Brian Buffini, back in 1947. No, I mean, it was not 2007, I think, or 2008, early 2008 that I went through that program when I joined Remax, to end every conversation, like literally every conversation, you know, Hey, Lori, by the way, I understand it's not your time to make a move, but who do you know that's looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate that I can reach out to today? So end every conversation. So you may not get a lead from every one of those conversations, but I promise if you do 20 meaningful conversations a day, you'll probably pick up a lead or two every day from someone that you have a conversation with just by asking that. So I would have a little checklist or a little something on your computer where you make your calls and make sure you ask that question to every single call that you have. Super powerful.
Lars, can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
So what we did, in one of our team meetings was, like everyone is talking about high interest rates and stuff. Yeah. So what we did was, we actually pulled up the mortgage calculator and said, okay, what actually it means when the interest rate 4% versus 7% or 6.5 actually means. So we dissected the real number and say, okay, every 100,000 is about every $1 million is about $500 or $600 more payment in a month. So our conversation with the new buyers are, okay, so you're paying $500 a month, pretty much you're going to pay $6,000 a year. Let's say for next 2 years, the interest rate doesn't go down, probably you'll end up paying $12,000 more or $15,000 more. Yeah. But in reality, if I get you $100,000 or $200,000 below the market price, you're still a winner. So, and keep in mind that the bond, the stock, it's related to the stock bond market. If 10-year treasury comes down, moves a little, we can always refi you at no cost and stuff. So we have few buyers like that who have actually got intrigued and got in the market to buy,
Dude,
also, Raul, you can lean into the fact that their interest rates are a write-off. Like, would you rather have less taxes on a lower purchase price, have a little bit higher interest rate that you can write off? I mean, I would take a higher interest rate over a higher price house all day long because I don't have to pay the property taxes and I can have the write-off on the interest tax or on the interest rate. So I think that's a huge thing to lean into as well.
Yes. And then we also found like 2 lenders in our market who were very, very creative. Like one of them, they was giving like a straight $25,000. It's not like moving the interest rate up and down to get the credit, but they were giving like 20, there's only one bank actually here, which is giving like $20,000 giveaway and towards closing cost or prepaid items. So that actually is giving a boost. So we closed 3 deals to them. And it was just one of those calls we made to a couple of lenders to figure out, what extra they have,
Hey,
and then I have another one who's doing like in 5 days, they're doing a HELOC, 5 days. So meaning that there are buyers who would like to buy, but they don't have to wait like for 2 months to get the HELOC done and then do it,
That's awesome. Does anyone have any questions or not fully understand what Rahul was saying in his first comment, where he was talking about like knowing the difference between an interest rate? Like, so if you wish you had 4%, but you actually have 7%, the increase in payment, and if we need to refi a couple years from now, yeah, you're going to pay in $15,000 more for the house. But would you rather, wait those 2 years or risk, the home being, 30, 40, 50,000 more? Like you may actually not be in a better position by waiting. If you don't quite understand that, I would just run through the numbers on a, average price point home in your market and look at like, what if, 2023 is flat, but then 2024 is an uptick on a $300,000 house or a $500,000 house, right? The home could actually go up more than it would cost to finance it today, if that makes sense. So this is our job to know these numbers, because the reality is that there's no inventory. That's the different thing we talk about. And even I brought it up, 2008. I don't think this is 2008. I don't think it's gonna, we're gonna go to millions of foreclosures. It's just a different lending environment coming into what we're in now. Housing isn't leading, what we're going through. It's just a totally different monster. But you need to be able to slice and dice these numbers with some easy, tools that are probably available even for your phone. So I think that's the kind of game we need to play. What did AJ say? Because everyone said so. Yeah. And AJ, you want to elaborate on that? I was actually gonna call on you. He said interest rate on rent is always 100%.
Yeah, true.
What'd you say, Lars?
I was going to say, do you want to allow? I was almost going to call on you because you went through the tough times of 7, 8, 9, 10 here in our market, right?
Yeah, but my first mortgage, I bought this back in 91, 92. I paid 9%, and I was ecstatic to get that. So, but yeah, I hear that a lot from renters to looking to buy. Even from people that bought 2-3 years ago, they're crying, hey, I paid 2.5%, 3%. He said, why would I pay 7%? I said, well, you decide to rent if you want to, but do you know what the percentage on rent is? 10 or 11. I said, try 100%. And that stops them dead in their tracks. So, but when I have that conversation with people, I just let them know that at the end of the day, you're never going to build equity when you're renting a apartment or a house. So, to me, owning's going to win every time, as long as, the home fits what you need. So it's time to move forward.
That's really good. Appreciate that. Any last, I'm gonna see if I think the update is, it's a public facing site. So even if you don't have KCM, I'll post it in Game Changers Nation and also Real Estate B School. So I'll post that update. I think it is not password protected. We'll also post the slides, a folder with all the downloadable JPEGs of all those slides that we just went through. This is just, I think one of the comments on the slides, I mean, this is just going to be a more a cleansing of the weaker agents. And I think it's going to be, a mindset challenge more than anything else. So any last tips on mindsets or rituals or things that you're doing to stay in the game mentally?
Kim has a really good question she just posted, that maybe we could just get a quick thoughts
Oh, yeah,
from
that's good.
everybody. Kim said,
Yeah,
I have
so-
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. There you go.
Okay, Kim said, I have a buyer that understands this concept, but is now wanting to offer 50 to 100K below the asking price. So as you guys are dealing with those kinds of clients, what are you telling them? Has anybody had that happen recently? A couple tidbits for Kim and everybody else?
I can jump in here, Lars, if you don't mind for a second. I just, I've seen this happen time and again, and a lot of people are thinking that because of where the market's going or what they're hearing in the news, that suddenly they're going to make an offer below asking price and snatch up a house. And the reality is, if you've been on the market for a while as a buyer, you've seen and lost a lot of properties. And if you're going to try and negotiate over 50 grand, and again, every market's different, but this is what I'm seeing in Boston and where I'm in Florida, that amount of money to lose that house and then come back on a year later at potentially a higher interest rate and a higher purchase price, not only have you wasted your time, but you potentially missed the opportunity to get that house that you've been waiting for all along. So
Yeah, it's really good. And then also I would say without, with them sort of making it up in their minds, right, based on some headlines, and if you don't have the actual data, here's what the experts are saying. So 6 experts are, predicting on average in 2023 that there may be an increase to, you saw that one chart. So that's a totally different conversation than them just making up on a $500,000 house, they're going to offer 400,000. Right. So I think having the data, one thing I started doing, and you can use the KCM slides to do it, is a monthly market update. So essentially take the KCM slides, interject some local stats, and just do a Facebook Live and have an inventory. Like, you actually become the market expert. I know JR is doing this on YouTube as well, a couple times a week, and pretty regularly market updates. So we are out of time, friends. Stay in the game. Next week we have, I think Wally Bressler is schooling us on scripts. Is that right, Stacey? I think so.
Yes, I believe so.
It'll be a good one. Invite guests if you want to crush this market. We have the words that come out of our mouth. Like that's effectively, and the things we type on wherever we type stuff, emails or in our socials. So much love, everyone. Take care of yourselves physically as well, emotionally, spiritually. We make a big deal out of this business, but it can also get the best of you and suck you into the vortex that it is and all the drama that it brings with it. So don't go there. Much love. We'll see you next week. Be good. Bye-bye.